Yes, I think it's happening. I'm live. It's the Nazarite bringing you Hebrew lore from days of yore. Thank God. Toda leya. And in this little broadcast here, I'm going to continue the chat from Monday. So I'm just going to dive right into it. So the on Monday, yes, Monday, we were speaking of. It started off with, is it blasphemous to say that God is an omniscient? There were comments on tzitzit, or a question rather, from the Jewish Huey Lewis and Robert Harrison, which also made a comment there. And there was a back and forth. We were going there for like an hour and a half. It was so awesome, and I thank you once again, everyone who joined. And someone just joined here. Hello there, person who joined. So I'm going to dive into the chat from last Monday. Continuing the chat from Monday with little Andre, what? So little Andre said something about me not explaining to people what humble means. It was meant as a joke, he said, but it kind of went right over my head. So I'm just going to keep reading. So he said back to Yodidiao, he didn't understand. I'm sorry for the poor communication on my side then, Yoni. So if I may call you that, I know your friends do. So, right, Yoni. So Yoni is short for Jonathan. Jonathan is my given name, first of two given names. So I was Yoni until I joined the army. I was Yoni from age 0, pretty much, right, until 20. And at 20, when I joined the army, I felt sort of called or pulled, or I simply wanted to go from Yoni to Jonathan. Now, those who know me prior to that will call me Yoni, since I went by that name for so many years. But it's been almost another half. I'm in my 40th year now, right? I'm 39, and so it's been kind of 20 years since I've been going and introducing myself and going by Jonathan. If people want to call me Yoni, you can feel free to do it. I enjoy Jonathan and I enjoy Yoni, and either one of them is good. So little Andre apologized for the poor communication. That's okay. Some jokes, it's difficult to convey tone of voice online. This I know from experience, obviously. It's difficult to convey tone of voice, but let's plow right ahead here. Robert said, "I hope the Nazarite does more vid." So the Nazarite SE Hall, right? I follow him on Facebook. I follow him here. At least I think I follow him on YouTube. Ever since my older channel was terminated, I've been having trouble remembering the different people that I was following on YouTube. I'm sure I've missed a few people. I don't follow that many people, I suppose. Maybe I ought to, but and listen more and engage more with them on their channels. But SE Hall, the Nazarite, made a lot of videos at the time, a lot being subjective, of course, right? But I hope so too, because I mean, he's a follower of Yeshua and all that, but he certainly has a lot to say. No reason why I won't at least see what he's going through, much like the rest of you out there. Little Andre says, you forgot about me, he says to Robert. Khalid said to Andre, race is not an issue as we are all God's creation. So there was talk of whether or not the Torah is racist. Little Andre pointed out that if we're talking about the separation between the people, right, Avraham splitting up into Yitzchak and Ishmael, Yitzchak splitting up further into Yaakov and Esav, and from there 12 tribes and that whole thing. So there's sort of a fractioning of the lineage, right? And of different covenants, different traditions, different people, different geographical locations, each got their own piece of creation. And the children of Israel, the 12 tribes, and their descendants received the Torah later on. But little Andre maintains that the Torah isn't racist because we are all fundamentally, at least at the time, of the same race. And so when speaking of Ishmael, when speaking of Esau, the nations might be different, the race is the same. That's what Khalid is referring to here. And he says, race is not an issue, we are all God's creation. He judges us by our actions. So people who are not on God's program, unless for a legitimate reasons, or are children, we cannot love. Wait. People who are not on God's program for a legitimate reason or children, we cannot love. So he says if someone is a child, then that doesn't apply. If someone has a legitimate reason, and I wonder, Khalid, what that legitimate reason might be as far as you're concerned. So we cannot love. But if you're saying that we are all God's creation, does that necessarily mean that we must love everyone? Or you say, well, what Khalid is saying here is that we don't necessarily, despite us being all one creation, love is something that should be kind of doled out. Okay. So little Andre says, hey, I'm a Hebrew Nazarite as well. So yes, little Andre is a is a Karaite Nazarite from South Africa. And so, yeah, I mean, we have different views on things, obviously, certainly on oral law and different things pertaining to the Nazariteship as well. But basically, yeah, he's a Hebrew Nazarite as well, by his own, by his own testimony. Robert says, yeah, keep going, Jonathan. We have missed you. And I certainly miss doing this on a regular basis. And as I said, I want to keep doing it. I want to go back to it. God willing, maybe I'll go back to doing it 6 days a week, Sunday through Friday. But I don't know. There's so much going on. And I have difficulties sometimes prioritizing uh, and sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, giving space, giving things their right time and place. But certainly, this having to do with the talk of commandments, of Torah, of spirituality, of self-development, I would really want to continue doing it a lot, all the time, every day. Whether or not it's online is another issue. Little Andre says, "Yeah, to Robert, I was joking around." Okay, and he says to Khalid, was a Muslim friend of mine's name. Oh, he said so he had a friend named Khalid. Elohim's creation. Yes, I get you, my brother in humanity. Yes, brothers in humanity. And that's what we were originally. Again, in Eden. I'm going back to Eden, always back to Eden, for better or worse. There was something there that was so root, so fundamental, that I feel the need to go back to it a lot and address it a lot and try to live that way a lot. And obviously, me being right, an Israeli and a Hebrew man here in Jerusalem, obviously there will be differences. There will be things where we part ways on certain things. But yes, brothers in humanity, for sure. Khalid says Israel needs reforming. As Muslims, we only curse people's actions, not them. Right. So it's like the thing of love, hate the sin and not the sinner. That sort of thing. As people, we don't, okay, so we curse people's actions, not them as people, as we forgive people who repent, as Allah is the most merciful. So I'm not against America as a country, only the government's unethical actions. I mean, I'm inclined to kind of agree with that. That's why I don't deal primarily. I don't deal in absolutes because I deal on a case by case basis. I'm more of an individualist in that sense. And even though even the Torah says, right, things like Amalek, which is in this week's Torah portion at the very end, when Amalek attacks Israel, and Joshua manages to weaken the Amalekian army, but not destroy it completely. And when I was learning with my kids earlier today, and I told them, right, Moses lifting his hands, Aaron and Hur supporting Moses' hands, he puts them down, he picks them up. There's victory, there's loss, but Amalek survives, and Amalek kind of must survive. The Torah itself, the Torah, this Torah portion, right, of Beshalach ends with that there is war between Adonai, so to speak, right, and Amalek from generation to generation. Ki yad al kesya. There is this idea of evil, insofar as Amalek personifies evil. There is something there that always exists, and at least until such time as evil is taken away, which is prophesied. So, because Allah is the most merciful, says Khalid bin Walid, and we are meant to be like the Most High, so we forgive them, much like God forgives us. I get that. I understand. Yodidiahu says one lineage of David comes through Nathan. The Mashiach will come from Shlomo or Natan? Question mark. I thought Mashiach will come from Solomon. Well, the line of David did come, right? It continues, as we see in the Book of Kings. It continues through Solomon, right? And then Rechavam, and then it splits up into Israel and Judah, and that whole thing. There is no. The prophets speak of Ephraim, right, of the kingdom of Israel not being jealous of Judah, and Judah not being jealous of Israel, and us becoming once again people of one nation, one people, right, like in Ezekiel with the two pieces of wood which become one. But as for how it went down, I mean, if you look at it practically speaking, in the line of kings, it was David, Solomon, Rechavam, and so on. And the kingdom of Judah, when it was destroyed by Babylon, and everything, they were cast out, right? And they were that whole thing with Jeremiah. But the line continues, and so there is always, at any given moment, many potential messiahs out there, who, if we merit it, will be acknowledged, anointed, crowned, throned, and they will rule. It's practically speaking, that's what it is. Essie Hall says, thanks for the kind words, Hebrew Nazarite. So yeah, I was speaking of him at the time. Little Andre says to Lisa, I just missed your last comment to me, and oh boy, I hate missing a live stream. So yeah, little Andre, Lisa, people who show up here, and I love it and I adore it. It's so much fun to have this engagement. Robert says, everyone leave a comment in the comments section. And there has been, in the comments section, different things there, which I hope I'll get to. Oh, wait, did I just, I lost my spot. Hang on a second. Okay. Little Andre says, it's so hot here in South Africa tonight, and this is perfect to keep me busy while I can't sleep. Oh, it sucks when it's hot and you can't sleep. I, thank God, am very much, I'm able to sleep. I'm able to get a good night's sleep if I don't wake easy and I can fall asleep relatively easy, unless I'm dwelling on something, ruminating about something, or and not necessarily in a negative way, right? Or deep in thought. I'm able to do my hitbodedut, right, under the blanket and sail off to sleep. Lisa said to Lil Andre, I do too, and then I called it show when I should have said live stream. It is a show. It is a show. I'm showing you this. So, it is a show. Yodidiah said to Hebrew Nazarite, thank you for spending time with us. See you next time, Gibo. Gibo meaning hero. Well, I'm no hero, but Lord knows I'd like to be the hero of my own life. I would. Little Andre said to Seth, I saw your kind words to me on Facebook as well. And he says to Lisa, it is a show, the Hebrew Nazarite show, smiley face. Yeah, so he kind of agrees with me here. He's showing himself. Oh, I literally said what he said at the time. S.E. Hall said, I think once the temple comes back into play, you will probably see a huge resurgence of Judaism. Well, there is the prophet. Oh, which one is it? Is it Yoel? I don't remember. Hosea, perhaps it's Hosea, where the prophecy is that at that time, and whatever time, I leave to you, at the time when the people of Israel will be known by the nations to be the people of God, as it were, then 10 people will hold on to the garment, to the edge of a garment of a Jewish man, right? Ish Yehudi, a man of Judah, of the Judaic kingdom, and say, "Teach us your ways." So yeah, I get that. Now I don't say that and I don't think the prophet said it in a holier than thou, condescending kind of way. It's simply a means to an end, because eventually we are all meant to know the Most High. In Yoel, it's said that God will pour His Spirit upon all flesh, the old, the young, that whole thing, and that's not segregated then into Gentiles and Hebrews. We'll all be one, all-knowing God. It's going to be such an amazing thing. And I would want it to happen from a path of love and mercy and justice, truth, all that good stuff. Um, mm, mm, mm. All right, and S.E. Hall continues and says, Israel may have become a theocracy. Israel may even become a theocracy again before the Messiah comes back to set up the complete theocracy. Right, so the word theocracy, it gets a bad rap because I think so many evil and wicked and malevolent things are done in the name of the Most High, and the people who do them and who carry them out, they are positive, they are sure that they are doing the right thing. Now, far be it from me to judge here or there, because what do I know? But I know that that's probably why theocracy has gotten such a bad rap. And the Bible, sometimes it's problematic. The five books of Moses, to those who read it this way or that, it can be problematic. And I know with organized religion, so many things are going on in the name of organized religion that to say theocracy is it's a difficult thing to say. But I'm saying this now as a person here, right in the 21st Gregorian century, and just trying to make my way through the galaxy here. I would want a theocracy too, but I would want it to be based and rooted in righteousness and justice and truth and all that good stuff. Otherwise, it goes to hell in a handbasket quick, very, very quickly, seriously fast, because we're all flawed. Oregon Freebird said, I feel like I should post a little church history since it keeps coming up in this thread. Right? So people there in the chat were discussing what the early church was. Were the early followers of Yeshua, were they this? Were they that? Were they Christians? Were they simply Jews who believed he was Messiah? There was that whole thing going back and forth there, which I know very little about. So if Karen wants to do that, go for it. So it keeps coming up in the thread. Early followers of Yeshua, she says, were fractionated, some following James, Paul, Apollos, etc., etc. Okay. S.E. Hall said, "Little Andre, you mean the reincarnation thing?" So he was saying that there was a back and forth in the chat, but I'm not going to go all the way back there. So Little Andre says, yeah, that he was talking about reincarnation. Oregon Freebird says, think of them, of the early church, I mean. Think of them, she says, as a bunch of Jewish converts with Yeshua as their prophet slash rabbi. The pagan emperor Constantine did not like the influence they had on the Roman army, and he did not like how they were separated from Roman society due to their Jewish traditions. To fix this, he claimed to have a divine revelation and organized a church universal at the Council of Nice or Nicaea, in which he mixed Judaism and myth, Mithraic, Mithraic, I don't know what that means, teachings and traditions. All of this can be verified in historical books on church history. So as far as I know, the Emperor Constantine said that he saw what the stigmata, right? That's the piercing where Yeshua was pierced. They say. I think that's what he said that he saw. And so, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. He painted a cross. He painted a stigmata on the shields of the warriors, right, of his combat soldiers, and they won. And from a Sol Invictus nation or army, right? That was the thing, Sol Invictus, and then it became basically Christian. So Oregon Freebird is saying that there was a lot there mixed, that the pagan Emperor Constantine did not like the influence they had on the Roman army. So if I'm hearing you correctly there was, he did it as what, the lesser of two evils, I guess? So, but wait, but you're saying that he claimed, what was it? What did you, he claimed to have had a divine revelation. So you don't think that actually happened? That's interesting. I mean, I don't know what I think of it. And what is Mithraic teachings? I'll have to look that up later. S.E. Hall agrees, and he says definitely some sun god mixture in Catholicism and Protestantism for that matter. So yeah, Sol Invictus, the invincible sun. Now the sun, at least in the Hebrew traditions, represents the middle pillar, the lower part of the middle pillar, right? We revolve around the sun, much as our life, so as it were, revolves around Torah and commandments, and the name Yod He Vav He pertains to the sun in a very, very unique way. And well, I'll leave it at that for now and keep going with the chat. S.C. Hall says, I think Ezekiel 8 has a dual fulfillment in Catholic and Catholic Reform Christians in reference to the ones who worship the sun at the east. So it's interesting. There's the uh, should I go for it? No, I'll just continue on with the chat. Nothing new under the sun, says S.E. Hall, right, from Kohelet. Little Andre said to Khalid, I'm against the governments of the world too. I don't believe Allah of the Hadith and maybe Quran, which I read, is the most merciful, though. So Little Andre disagrees. He says he agrees that the governments, that he's against the governments, but he doesn't believe in that God. He says I can quote a verse from the Sahih Hadith now, but it's better to do it in the comments, which he did. Peace be upon you, says Robert Harrison, and that's where that ended. It's a wonderful chat. I'm glad I got to finish it. Um, I, I'm not going to speak of the sun right now. If it comes up, it comes up, but I'm not going to speak of the sun and of that thing right now. I'm just going to go right ahead back to the main screen here. Okay, hi. So I have people here. Hello, people. It's me, says Oregon Freebird. Hello there. And Robert is here. So let's see. What's up, Oregon Freebird? He asks, and she answers, just secretly listening to the broadcast at work. Shh, don't tell. Once again, if you're at work and there's work to be done, I say focus on the work, because there's time for work and there's time for divine work. And if it's something that ought not be done, maybe it's not the best, time to do it. But that's your business. That's your business. It depends on your employer. Do they allow it, right? If you're saying secretly listening. So hello, maybe I should whisper. It's that much more secret. Robert Harrison says in Psalms 139:8, King James Version, this verse addresses God omniscient. If I send up into heaven, thou art there, right? Ki esak shamayim, shamata va'atzia sheol hineka. If I'm not mistaken, that's it. And if I make my bed in hell, thou art there. Behold, thou art there, right? Sheol hineka. If I take wings in the morning and do, and what? Okay. And do in the uttermost part of the sea. Basically, Psalms 139, 813, God is everywhere. So yes, so this again pertains to the divine revelation. To say God is everywhere means that he is also somewhere. And if he is somewhere, then he is not God. As far as I'm concerned, it's just a divine revelation of God. And that's a big difference. And so, okay, you know what? Okay, I'm going to keep going here right now. Keep going with a question. A question from, or what was not a question, what was it? Where was it? Ah, I missed it. Okay, so here. Jewish Huey Lewis said yesterday, Hashem never defines himself in the Torah and Tanakh. Speaking of the omniscience, what God is, what God isn't. And my rule of thumb is if it can be perceived, it is not God. If it can be spoken of, it is not God. It's a divine revelation, and that makes all the difference for me personally. So he says, he continues, the only definition of God we have is Leviticus 19:1 and 2. I'll read it now from the JPS Tanakh, but in a minute. He says, other than that, I have no idea what or who God is, or what God is capable of doing / knowing, and what he's not capable of. Who knows, says Jewish Huey Lewis. And so I'll read that bit from Leviticus. So we are at Leviticus 19, verses 1 and 2. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, speak unto all the congregation of the children of Israel, and say unto them, ye shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. K'doshim tihiyu ki kadosh ani. This idea of separation. God is separated, you two should be separated. And he says this is the only time where we find the definition of God. This is not, for him, he might think it, that's all well and good. There are different allusions to what God is, or the divine revelation as I see it, not what God is. I don't know what God is, but let's see. So I have a couple of verses here. So Deuteronomy 4, verse 24. For the Lord thy God is a devouring fire, a jealous God. Esh ochla, it says. In Deuteronomy 10, in verse 17 and 18, it says, for the Lord your God, he is God of God and Lord, God of gods and Lord of lords, the great God, the mighty and the awful, who regardeth not persons nor taketh reward. He doth execute justice for the fatherless and widow, and loveth the stranger in giving him food and raiment. Now, we were discussing the stranger on Monday, right? The ger tzedek, ger toshav, meaning the righteous stranger, the resident stranger. And verse 19, he carries on and he says, love ye therefore the stranger, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. It's so okay. So we see that God is spoken of as being the God of gods, Lord of lords, great, mighty, right? Which are again the words El Gadol Gibor Venora. It can be translated as it is here in the JPS Tanakh as great, mighty, and awful, or terrible, and these literally are the right, the left, and the middle pillars in name. Let's put it that way. Let's continue a few more things of what God is. Exodus 34, verse 6. And the Lord passed by before him and proclaimed, the Lord, God, merciful and gracious, long-suffering, and abundant in goodness and truth, keeping mercy unto the 1000th generation, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and upon the children's children unto the 3rd and unto the 4th generation. So again, we see that God is all of these attributes. These are the 13 divine attributes. There are 2 sets of divine attributes. This one here in the Torah, and it's called 13 midot shel rachamim, the 13 attributes of mercy. There's also the end of Hosea, which has another 13 attributes of mercy, traditionally recited on the new year in Tashlich, a different ritual, a later ritual, but a pretty wonderful ritual at that. So God does have different, if not definitions, then certainly attributes, right, and traits, characteristics, which are attributed to him. It does not make it him. You could say that, for instance, I have long hair, but I'm not my hair. I wear glasses, I am not my glasses. I'm clothed in a robe, but I am not my robe, and so on and so forth. It's still not precisely God. And so when Jewish Huey Lewis says, I'm not capable of knowing what God is, who God is, I'm not capable of knowing, or I'm not capable of knowing what God is capable of or not capable of, who knows? Mi yodea, as they say in Hebrew. And it's true, which is why I'm always very, very careful to say in recent years that I don't know anything about God. pardon me. All I know is how God reveals himself to me. And God reveals himself to me through all of these attributes and in direct correlation to the way that I reveal myself to the world. Not always precise, because there is this idea of God being merciful, abundant in goodness, even when I'm not worthy, right? And being able to forgive iniquity and transgression and sin, even if I keep on doing it, because he is long suffering. Ma'arich af. It's this idea of giving humanity the grace and the time to return, to repent, to make tshuva. And it's part of what characterizes God. And in other verses, and in other areas in the Torah and the Tanakh, we see that God is very jealous and sometimes says, "No, this will not. It will not stand." For instance, when King Chizkiah of Judah and all the righteous kings, when they did their thing, people like Yoshiao, people like Chizkiah, it was not enough. The sins, transgressions, and iniquities of the more wicked kings of Judah, it didn't, there was nothing that we could have done. Judah had to be kicked out of the land. There wasn't enough goodness there to overcome the wickedness, and so something had to be started over, reset. You get kicked out of the land, the temple is destroyed, Jerusalem is burned, and we need to start from not exactly from scratch. The covenant exists and persists, as I like to say, and we have that. We hold on to it, really, tooth and nail. We fight to make that covenant more present in our lives, in my life, because it's something that ancient and that significant and that well, let's leave it at that. Let's see, is there anything else in the chat right now? Let's see. Spooky says shalom, shalom to you. Hi there. Did I miss you answering my question? So I mean, I read the chat. I finished a couple of minutes ago, right? I read the chat, Lisa, from the last broadcast from Monday. So if you want, well, let's see. I mean, I won't keep people, a few people over here, and maybe people who will be watching later. So I'm not going to repeat myself right now. But I did go through the chat, and so I don't precisely remember your question. Maybe I'll get to it and I'll give you the, the quick and dirty version. Let's see, Lisa. I'm looking. I'm not. Oh, it won't let me replay it. It doesn't. YouTube is giving me some trouble here, so I'm not going to do it again. Let's see. So let's continue. Lisa, my apologies. I did address things that went on in the chat after I'd left, so feel free once this is done to go back and check it out if you want. So I think you did miss me answering your question, or at the very least addressing the question, if not answering, because what do I know? Is Palestinians ger toshav? Well, that calls into question the entire idea of whether or not Islam is whether or not Islam is an idolatrous religion. I don't know enough about Islam. As far as I know, Islam is treated as people who are not idolaters, and right, because they do accept the divinity of Torah, they just don't follow it because right, because they claim that Muhammad, peace be upon him, as it were, was the final prophet, meaning they believe in Moses and in the Torah, they believe in Yeshua and in the New Testament. The Christians in Arabic are al-Masihiyin, or al-Masihiyin, the Messiah, the Messiahs, the Messiahites. So they do believe that he was Messiah, but they believe that Muhammad was the last prophet, and after that there will be no other. Therefore, Islam is that last and final iteration of the divine will in the world. Something like that. I'm sure I'm messing it up. Any Muslims out there who wish to correct me, go for it. Answer the question. So let's see. Are Palestinians ger toshav? In that sense, it's difficult for me to tell. It's difficult for me to tell because they don't accept the rule, or at least kind of, as far as I know, they don't accept the rule and the sovereignty of the Hebrew people in the land of the Hebrews. Because of that, they won't be the classic traditional ger toshav. A ger toshav is somebody who forsakes their foreign gods or idols or whatever it is, and who follows the Hebrew God and who accepts the lawful, I guess, right, sovereignty of Israel in the land of Israel. And since, as far as I can tell, Palestinians, and that's a whole other issue that I don't want to touch on, it's too political, but people who are here in the land who don't accept the Hebrew people as the righteous rulers, and I mean that very loosely because, I don't want to get into politics and who says we even can rule, and certainly it might not be a righteous ruling and all that, right? I'm not blind. I know that the Israeli government, military, they do a lot of things that are out of line, and nevertheless, I accept the rule, their current rule, because I'm a Hebrew man. This is my government. I'm a citizen of the state of Israel. I served in the army for many years. So, as far as I can tell, they don't qualify as being the traditional classic Ger Toshav. However, they do qualify as people who live here, who don't worship foreign gods, and that would already sort of put them in that bracket, rubric, I'm not sure, however you want to phrase it. It would certainly put them very close, if not rather, if not really in, it would put them very close to people that we ought to treat with respect and love them, as the Torah says, "Ve'ahavta ger." On the other hand, there is no doubt that some Palestinians, and I'm not going to generalize, not an absolute, some Palestinians are definitely enemies who are attacking for whatever reasons. They're rightful. They're attacking us with righteousness. They're not attacking us with righteousness. God tells them. God doesn't tell them. I don't know. Far be it from me to know or judge. But your enemy doesn't accept your rule, right? They're kind of waiting it out. They say the Palestinians have been around for, so many, many, many years. We survived this, we survived that, and we will survive and live out this Israeli occupation, which also I don't believe is an occupation because we are the people of Israel, so we cannot be occupiers in our own land. I also don't. I also don't believe that we are imperialists, colonialists, not even colonial settlers. No, no, we're just citizens of the land, residents of the land, the people of the land, and I'll leave it at that because that's a whole can of many, many worms. So let's see. Oh, and he retracted the message. Okay, I don't blame you. Little Andre says, Shalom, shalom. Can a Jew, what? Can a J-U? I'm not sure what J-U is. Can a Jew believe? Oh, can you believe it? You mean J-U as in you? You're early again and back without any questions. I don't understand. What do you mean, man? I'm not sure what you mean. Can a Jew take a medicine that contains pork? Well, if it's something that's life-threatening and you need it in order to live, I'm inclined to say yes, because we see that in Masechet Yoma, in Tractate Yoma, in the Mishnah, it says that if somebody on Yom Kippur, right, is fasting, and they are and some sort of manic state comes over, right, and they become sick, and it's threatening to their life, then you can even feed them dead animals, right? What's called nevelot v'trefot, unkosher things, dead things, as long as they get some sustenance. And it can even be without, right? If there's no doctor there, then you are allowed to feed somebody who is on like the threshold of death, or whose life is being threatened, right, with an illness. You're allowed to feed them non-kosher things on Yom Kippur until he can say, oh, okay, I'm feeling better. Yeah, for sure. The same with a woman who's impregnated and who smells something that's cooking or brewing and wants it, right? The baby wants it, ergo, therefore, she wants it, and it can be life threatening if she doesn't eat it right now. So you're allowed to feed a pregnant woman on Yom Kippur if she has that craving that is life threatening in potential, right? A potential threat on her life. So you're saying it's a prescription thyroid medication. So the thyroid, if I understand correctly, has a lot to do with the endocrine system and with the hormones. And if those are out of balance, it can eventually become life-threatening. But I don't know enough about anatomy or physiology, nor do I know enough about medication, prescriptions, or the thyroid gland for that matter. But I'm inclined to say right off the bat, just from the top of my head, if it's something life-threatening that you need this medication for, and if you can't resort to any other solution, then yes. However, if there is a different possibility, a different solution, some other thing, I would say it's best to pursue other avenues, providing that it's medically right, that it's medically viable. Because if it's life-threatening, you can do it, right? Much like you can desecrate the Shabbos in order to save a life, much like you can do so many other things to save a life. On the other hand, we see, for instance, that when it comes to uh, freeing and redeeming prisoners, there's a limit. There's a limitation on what you are allowed to give physically, like literally give, whether it's ransom money, whether it's this or that. There is a statute, I guess, of limitations on what you are allowed to do in under certain circumstances, in certain conditions, to save a life. So I'm not a posek, right? I don't rule on halacha. So I'm not the one to tell you. If you want to know what the Hebrew faith says, Orthodox Hebrew faith, ask your rabbi. But I think that you're allowed if it's a life-threatening thing and if it needs to be done right now. Otherwise, you should pursue other avenues of healing, wellness, and and medicine. That's what I would say. By the way, says little Andre, there's lots of things in your previous video which I wish I could address all at once. But if anybody has any questions regarding Karaite Judaism, please ask me, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. Look, man, I've told you, little Andre, we can have a video, we can have a dialogue. It's been a very long time since I did a dialogue, and I'd like to have that. And, oh, incidentally, as long as I'm on this topic, Craig Lease asked me a few days ago if I would consider opening up the chat again for anybody who wants to join for the live discussion on video. And I told him, look, I'm a bit wary of doing that. I'm kind of hesitant because I did that only once before, the night after we arrived back in Israel. And when I did that through StreamYard, that's when my old channel was terminated because I let someone on there who pretended to be Lisa Freyne, if I'm not mistaken, right? He pretended to be you, and then my channel was terminated because he broadcasted porn. So I don't know. Now there is the possibility of me doing that again, and if something like that happens again, I'll just say goodbye. I have to go right now, and I'll delete the video immediately, and then there will be no evidence. But I don't know if YouTube can see see a video or a live stream even after I delete it. Anyway, it opens up a whole thing now. Now that I know that that can happen, now that I know that I might be targeted for whatever reason for deletion by people who don't want me to speak, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, it actually happened, right? That's literally what happened. Somebody targeted this, he pretended to be Lisa, he came on with the live chat on video, broadcasted that adult image, and by the morning, the channel was completely and utterly terminated with no way to get it back. I don't want that to happen again. So I'm hesitant. I'm wary of doing it again, but I really would like to. So, little Andre, if at any point you would like to discuss things at length, I'm very interested in having you on. And if not video, then on a call, right? I can be on video, you can be with audio. We can still have the back and forth. If you know a lot more about Karaite Judaism than I do, so I would love to have your opinion on all these things. I wish you say that you wish you could address all of it at once. I don't know if you could do it all at once, but you can definitely do it. So if you're ever into it, it's an open invite, much like the rest of you people out there. If you want to have a dialogue with me, if you want to teach me something, educate me, put new ideas forth, new discussions, I'd love to do it, whether it's audio, video, chat. I'm all for it. I'm here to learn, I'm here to grow, I'm here to develop, and hopefully in the process provide a bit of value to those who take time out of their busy day and night to to arrive at this channel. Ah, such a blessing. I love it. I love it that you guys are here. Also, by the way, says little Andre, Robert Harrison is in the house again. Yes, he is. So are all of you, and I dig it. Essie Hall says, wait, did you already show up here, or is this? No. So hi, Essie Hall. Hello, Nazarite. He says, also, the Torah says, do nothing that can bring your neighbor harm, which would also apply to withholding certain things from him if he is near death, I would think, right? So yeah, there's this what's called din moser, din rodef. Well, no, moser has to do with giving away land. Din rodef. Din rodef is basically this. If you see someone running and someone after him that with a knife to kill him, you must step up and do something if you can, providing that you won't be putting your own life at risk, right? It's that whole put your mask on first, don't light yourself on fire to keep other people warm. It's that thing. If you can do something about it, the Torah says, be the bigger man or woman, do something about it. If you see somebody running from somebody with a knife, you need to step up and get that dude with a knife, or get that dude who's running with the knife. If you can't afford to do it for whatever reason, that's another issue. And there are, again, many halachas about this, on when it is, when it isn't, when it's permissible, when it should or shouldn't be done. But I'm not a posek and I'm not a man of halacha, so I won't get into it. But yeah, if you know that certain harm will come to someone and you can do something about it, then you should do something about it. And this, we can see this happening in the Torah, in the Tanakh as well, right? In the Nach. Oregon Freebird says to Lisa, see if you can find a version of Armor. Oh, Armor meaning the medication that is made with dedicated kosher beef thyroid. I know there are companies that make it. I will see if I can find it. Well, look at this. Solutions being drummed up here out of the clear blue sky. I love it that people can make connections here, and I love it that it's practical. I'm not just blah blah blah. I certainly am, but I also wish and want for it to eventually be practical. This channel is about how I would like to conduct myself in the world. How do I become better? How do I become the best Jonathan that I can be? And so these connections that are made here, where there's a practical application, and the connections that are made, whether it's with me, with you, or you guys among yourselves, it always brings me joy to see people connecting through this channel. I love it. It's a network. We're all part of a network, a vast network, and the connections that we make, right, like ripples of water, they spread out and they affect people in ways that we can't comprehend. It's lovely to acknowledge it, even if I can't really see how it's going to go down. So let's see. What's up, little Andre? Says Robert. I'm sure he gives him an answer. Lisa says to Oregon Freebird, it is Armor, but when I looked it up, it said it was pork thyroid. They told me at the doctor that it wasn't pork. So now I'm confused. I don't want to take a pork product. I hear you. I can understand that. Not to mention, says Essie Hall, not to mention no warnings. No warnings. Oh, speaking of the YouTube thing, YouTube is supposed to give strikes. That was definitely targeted as far as I can tell. Well, look, I'll always come back to this. YouTube, social media at large, right? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, this, blah, 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 blah. It's all free unless you opt into the paid version. It's free. So who am I to complain about it? I don't like it. I can leave. You don't like it? You can leave. You have the power, to quote He-Man. And so I dig it. I tried to get my channel back. It didn't work. I'm not going to try again. Whatever needed to happen happened. And it certainly was a big break, right? Literally a cutoff from my channel in the Netherlands to the channel here in Zion. So for some reason it happened. I did what I could. I didn't get it back. Yeah, I should perhaps have gotten a strike. I don't know. I really don't. Robert says, I noticed the more videos you do, the more your followers go up. I mean, well, that's a numbers game, right? I suppose the more you put yourself out there, the more there is a chance of people happening across your channel. Now, as you know, those of you who follow, I try to keep it organic. Occasionally I'll say something on Facebook, but I don't market this channel because I want people to reach it organically. And that means usually that there will be very little amounts of people here. But once again, those who show up and who stay, I hope are rewarded with the lovely little community that's being built here, and with the back and forth, and with some value, right? Value. We're all here to get some value. Me from you, you from me, all of us from whatever the heck it is that we're doing. You want to get some value, or else it's literally wasting your time and mine. So I'm doing what I can to not waste time. It's also why I don't like the dead air that occasionally comes up here. So yeah, the more videos you do, the more your followers go up. Well, look, that was certainly the case with the old channel. But and look, after 3 years that I did it, I was at almost 900 subs. And again, I really want to get to 1,000, so I'll be able to use this thing and just walk around and give you the sights and the smells. You can't smell through you know what I mean? There's no scent in cinema, but to give you the sights and sounds of Zion, to go here, to go there, of Israel. Forget just Zion, forget just Yerushalayim, Israel. I'd go to places that I usually wouldn't go if it was something that you and I could be discovering together all the better. All right. So yeah. Also, what's up? Oh, I'm sorry. So the followers go up, says Robert. What's your opinion in Karaite Judaism, Yonatan Naftali Hurwitz? Oh, you know what? I never realized that I gave you my second name, my middle name. I never realized that. Or maybe my father did it at some point. But okay, yeah, Yonatan Naftali is my full name. Um, my opinion of Karaite Judaism is that it's a glorious tradition. I can totally see why there are those who would follow the 5 books of Moses strictly and not adhere, or rather, not see the oral traditions, the Mishnah, the Talmud, Halacha as binding. I'm, in that sense, kind of, I have Karaite characteristics because even though I do try and keep certain halachas, I don't consider it as binding as a classic traditional Orthodox rabbinic Jew, right? Because that's not me anymore. But I certainly keep to certain things, and I would go to halacha for certain things, and I would go to the Mishnah and the Talmud for the discussion on certain things, even if eventually I don't follow what it says to a T. I'll still definitely go there because it's part of my heritage. And even though it's the product of destruction and exile, right? The fact that the oral law had to be written down, which ought not to have been, but it was, and that's what we're stuck with. And I mean stuck, and for better or worse, we're stuck with it. Where, I'll give my classic analogy of the remnants and the leftovers of a great meal, which are wonderful, but they are still leftovers. And so I'm waiting for a Sanhedrin. I'm waiting for smicha to come back. I'm waiting for that anointing oil to be rediscovered. I'm waiting for all that. And I'm waiting for it to come through us, through our actions. I'm really waiting. And I hope that in my small, sometimes pathetic kind of way, I'm doing what I can to better myself, and in doing so, also better all of creation. And this can be done by each and every one of us. Every good deed that we do carries another good deed with it if we choose to see it that way, right? A mitzvah brings another mitzvah, a transgression brings another transgression, to quote Pirkei Avot, right, in the Mishnah. So my opinion of Karaite Judaism is that they are Jews, 100% Jews. They're not Orthodox Rabbinic Jews. They are a separate sect, right? And you could say that about a lot of different sects of Judaism. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's all well and good. I would like to visit a Karaite synagogue at some point. I've said this before. I love the fact that they take off. Look at this rogue hair here. I love the fact that, it's not hair, it's a dread. I love the fact that they take off their shoes before entering the synagogue, right? To put their feet on the earth, on the ground, to have that connection, right? From top to bottom and through and through, much like Joshua and Jericho, like Moses and before the burning bush. Lisa says, thank you to Oregon Freebird, to Karen, and I really hope that you'll be, hey, look at that, Jamal Stafford is here. Oh my God, Nathaniel is here. Nathaniel is a relatively new father. So once again, I'll congratulate you, man. That baby looks so precious. I love little puppies. And I'll just give you here just my very quick blessing. I really hope that you are able to raise him. It's a him, right? Yeah, it's a him. To raise him in ways of righteousness, of goodness, of kindness, Torah and commandments. And I mean, look who his father is. You have that group, right? Of halachic. What's it called? I forgot the group. Jamal, if you're still around, because I'm reading it, sort of retroactively. If you please give your channel on your Facebook group, put it down. Halachic discussions, halachic Jews, or what is it called? I don't remember. I don't remember what it's called, but Jamal Stafford does have a group going on. It's growing, and he has a lot of Torah there, a lot of halachic discussions there. Really good things. I don't pay enough attention to it, I'll admit, but I'm definitely a member, and I see things every now and then. I read them. I don't engage as much as I maybe should. But hey, it's good to have you here in the chat again. Wow, Jamal's back, says Robert. Yes, indeed. Oh yeah, I have hiccups. Okay. Little Andre says, not much to Robert with you. I saw your DM to me just now, by the way. See, people making connections. I love it. I love it that from the channel here, it sort of grows out. I love watching it happen. So Jamal says, yeah, my wife and I, oh, wait, I lost my spot again. My wife and I had our first baby and been busy, but glad to be back listening to this beautiful soul and chaver and friend. And you are too, a beautiful soul and a friend. It's so nice. I still remember, Jamal, what you told me after I had my dialogue with Rabbi Mesa, and we spoke afterwards. And It's just so lovely to have digitally met you and corresponded with you. It's so good. I love doing it. I love it. Congratulations, says Robert. Little Andre says, I and I'm sure others appreciate you reading the rest of the chat, by the way. Lots of by the ways tonight. Yeah, by the ways. Yeah, so by the way is originally agav orcha, and in Hebrew translated as al haderech. And that came into Hebrew later as derech agav. Anyway, by the way, meaning on by the literally on the path. Agav orcha means as I'm walking the path. But I digress. Robert says to Little Andre, Psalms 139, 8 on 13 on God being everywhere. Okay, so yeah, we already addressed that there, but feel free to look that up. Little Andre says, although I don't know how many more by the ways there will be tonight because I might not be on for long. Well, whatever time you spend here with us is appreciated. So thank you, Little Andre, whether or not you stay, So thank you for being here, each and every one of you. Those watching now, those watching later, as always, I appreciate it. Your engagement, your viewership means a lot to me. Little Andre says to Lisa, thank praise Yah. Indeed, totale Yah. S.E. Hall says, I mean, that is a good way to look at it. So, right, pertaining to what was spoken of at the time earlier in the broadcast. Little Andre said to Robert, Isaiah 113 on Elohim not being everywhere. Yes. So you see, it's different revelations. If you're everywhere, that means you're also somewhere. And if you're somewhere, it means that it's limited. And if it's limited, it means that it's not God, but a divine revelation. Little Andre says, not assembling in the presence of sin, to be specific. Okay. Right. Right. Yeah, I remember. I remember the verse, but let's keep going. S.E. Hall says, "I say you should also start doing more of the non-stream informational videos again that you used to do to help build more content reach." Oh, so you know what, man? I mean, I started broadcasting after 3 months at the time. For 3 months, I made a video, short up to 5 minutes usually, every single day. It took me such a long time to edit them and to put them together with an intro, with an outro. If I go back to doing videos rather than broadcasts, I will keep them short as I did then. I won't edit them. No intro, no outro, no music, nothing. Now, I I'm kind of disinclined to not inclined to do that because if I'm gonna do it, maybe I ought to do it properly with subtitles, with a proper, with I don't know. I don't know. I'd certainly like to do it. I definitely have learned a lot more in the last few years engaging with different Nazarites, men and women. Uh, so I don't know. I don't know. Because you're kind of asking me that I should redo that which I already did at the beginning. Maybe I should. Maybe I will. Nazarite, do some more vids, please. So yeah, he said that. Seth, I agree with you, says little Andre. What's up, brother? He says, not much. Hey, no news is good news. SEL says to Robert, I want to start again, but I want to try a different format of pre-scripted stuff, I think. I'm bad talking verbally on the spot, LOL. Yeah, you think so? Why is it that you think you're bad talking on the spot, I wonder? Little Andre says, is that a way of saying hello in America, though? What's up? Yeah, pretty much. In a lot of places, isn't it? Robert, are you still doing videos? Jamal asks, would you ever go to Har Grizim to witness the Korban Pesach among Shomronim, the Samaritans? Wow. Well, look, the Hebrew man in me would love to do that. The vegan in me does not want to do that. So I'm kind of torn. I think I would. I think I would like to do that. I think I'd like to see that. But oh my God, to see that animal be slaughtered, it, I don't know, man. I think I would. I think I'd like to see that done. The thing is that it's Pesach, right? It's a holiday. It's Pesach. So I don't think I'll be able to do it and still have. Wait, am I? Okay. I don't think I'll be able to do that and still have a Pesach. I mean, you know what? First of all, Jamal, Netanyahu, that's a great question, man. That's such a good question. My God. I've never even considered it because of the actual act, but I think I would. I think I would like to witness that. I think I would. That's a good idea. I mean, it's 2 months away, right? It's Shvat. We have Adar, and then we have Nisan, unless there's an Adar Bet. I don't think there's an Adar Bet this year. I might be wrong. I think there was one last year. Little Andre, I hear you, says SEO. Robert says, yes, getting back to them, bro. You're great on the spot. Get back to them, he says to the Nazarite. I enjoyed them. You remind me of John the Baptist in a way. Well, it's a great compliment from one follower of Yeshua to the other. I'll give you that. And I also don't think that, I also think that you should do it. I also think you should do it. I mean, look, you can always perfect your speech, your eloquence. You can always perfect the way that you express yourself. But I think the most important thing is to express yourself first and foremost. And then it's just a question of tweaking and of perfecting to the degree that you can. But if you have something to say, each and every one of you, certainly ones who have already broadcasted and expressed themselves, you have something to say to people, say it. Say it. I mean, look at me. I've been speaking for 55 minutes here, blah, blah, blahing and addressing different comments and questions. And now I love to do it. I'm a speaker. I love to do it. As I love to express myself, whether it's in writing or whether it's in speaking or whether it's just something that I've been doing forever in all kinds of ways. So I love doing it. If you don't love doing it, and if you think it's on the spot, and if you think that you won't be able to do it, then try scripted for a while. But I'm telling you from experience, and you know from experience too, there's absolutely nothing like going live or at the very least unscripted and unedited. There's something so raw about it, and I adore it personally. Jamal says, thank you so much for your blessings for Kitov Eliyahu. Jews of color, halachic discussions. That's what it was. Jews of color, halachic discussions. Jamal's group on Facebook that he started, if I'm not mistaken. He's the one who started it. There's a lot of things there. Jews of all different walks of life having discussions, not only on halacha, but I think probably mainly on halacha. And so, yeah, and Kitov Eliyahu, that's his name. That's lovely, man. Oh yeah, baby boy, baby boy. Is a kif. My God. Ay, babies, kids. Little Andre, and but I mean, I could. The blessing that I give you, it's nothing compared to what you ought to be getting. And so I hope that you and your woman and your growing family will be blessed, right? Your house, your Torah, yourselves, that it will be just so blessed. And then more than that, that you will be able to create that vessel with your goodness and your kindness, right? And your positive vibration to receive even more blessings, right? It's like a cup. The larger the cup, the more it can receive. But if it's too small, then try as we might, we can't fit more water in there, right? So on the one hand, I want your cup to run over. On the other hand, I want you to keep making that vessel larger and larger and larger through your deeds and through your positive interactions and vibrations, and make it so even more water can be poured in there. So let's see. Lisa says, little Andre, Lisa, I see now said a J hyphen W right after I said a JU, but YouTube allows you to say the J word, but not me. So yeah, little Andre, apparently he said Jew or Jews in the previous chat, and YouTube did not allow him to post that message. And so he started writing it differently. I don't know, man. Could it be that it's different people? The algorithm treats different people differently. I don't know. Jamal says, anyone interested, feel free to join on Facebook. Yes, definitely. Little Andre says, right, join. If you're into Jews of different colors, and if you're into halachic discussions, if you want to learn more about the way that a different halacha is ruled on, right, and how they arrive at it, and there's really good discussions there if you're into the faith. Little Andre says, now I'm really suspicious of YouTube watching me. So yeah, it might actually be the case that because of your history, whatever history it might be, YouTube watches you differently. I don't know. Robert says, why did the Pharisees wipe out or try to every other Jewish sects? So you're comparing the Pharisees to the Rabbinites, right? To the Pushim, to the Yehudim, Rabbanim. Some people say they are one and the same, and some people say that they are not. In the Talmud, if I'm not mistaken, they differentiate between the two, right? There's the Rabbinic Jews and the Pharisee Jews, the Pushim and the Rabbanim, as they were. They're not called that way, but that's how we call them right now. So I wonder if you say that they look. I know to some degree why rabbinic Judaism survived, right? They were the ones who said, right? Rabbi Yochanan, was it Rabbi Yochanan? Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. When the Roman ruler told him that he could choose a place in order to kind of reestablish a Torah center, he didn't, and I've mentioned this in the past, he didn't say, give me Jerusalem. He said, give me Yavne and its sages. Ten li Yavne v'chachamea. So Yavne is a city in Israel. At the time, it was a great Torah center. He didn't say Jerusalem. He said, give me Yavne. That's where it will be growing from. I think that, at least in some ways, the sages had the foresight. I don't know why they tried to wipe others out. I know that there's this deal with the Essenes who took themselves out of the equation, right, and moved to the desert. I know that there was the Tzdokim, the Saddukites. I know there was the Kutim. I know that there were a few other different sects there. And that the Rabbaniyim, right, our sages, Chazal, Chachamenu Zichronanu Livracha, our sages, peace be upon them, or their memory may it be a blessing, they did not see eye to eye. And they said, look, the temple is destroyed, or was about to be destroyed, depending on when you go, right? Mishnah, Talmud, and so on. We need to make some really harsh, frickin' decisions right now. And we would rather continue on with this path and write down the oral tradition than go with those other fragmented paths. I think that each sect that was around at the time had truth and righteousness within it. But when they were all mixed up together in Jerusalem, that's what brought it to its knees. It wasn't the Babylonians, it wasn't necessarily the Roman army, it was the infighting. It was the infighting that caused the downfall and the demise of Jerusalem and of the people and the destruction of the Second Temple. It was that we didn't treat each other righteously. We didn't treat each other with respect. We didn't treat each other with goodness, with kindness. We didn't love each other. There was what's called sinat chinam, which was basically hatred with no cause, just because. And what we're trying to bring about now, each in our own way, is part of that love, right? And not to sound too hippie-ish, the hippie though I am, just love for the sake of love does have its place, not under any circumstances, but it does have a place of loving for the sake of loving, bringing people together. Does it sometimes come at the cost of other things? Yes, that's why we must prioritize. So I don't know why the Pharisees or the Rabbanim, right, the Orthodox Jews, I don't know why they tried to wipe everyone out, but I know that they didn't see eye to eye, and that definitely was part of what brought that on. Should it have been that way? Was it okay that it was done that way? I don't know. But right now, here in Israel, I have the freedom to go my own way, even though I might be wrong, even though I'm definitely, I could be wrong on certain things. But right now, as things stand, we are allowed to go our own way. If you want to study the Tzdoki doctrine, if you will, and go with that, do it. If you want to study the Pharisee one or the Essene one or all of those other sects, do it. You're still Jews, you're still Hebrews, you just do it a little differently, right? Whether you're a Samaritan or whether you're a Karaite, you're still Hebrews. So go for it and choose your path. Robert Harrison says to Jamal, what's it like being a dad? And Lisa says to little Andre, oh, that's sad. Oh, so there was, referring to YouTube, why would they just pick on you like that? I'd be suspicious too. Yeah, I would be too. Little Andre says to Seth, me too, most of the time. I hear you even more on this, right? So pertaining to, I think he's referencing how he didn't like to speak on the spot. Is that what you're referring to? I hope you guys in the chat, because I'm busy blah blah blahing, I hope you guys are following the chat and the different questions and answers going on there as they pertain to you. Little Andre says to Lisa, didn't you hear what happened in Yonathan's third or fourth last video? The Nazarite says, I think we might all have to unanimously decide a cutoff time to stop commenting so that HN doesn't have to always start the next video reading old chat. It's my privilege, it's my deep honor and joy to have so much engagement that at some point I'm like, okay, dudes, I can't do this anymore, but I'll continue next time. It's such a wonder to me that I get to carry on from Monday's chat, and the way that the way that it's going right now, and I've been speaking for over an hour, it looks like I'll be doing the same thing now. I see that as a deep privilege, because who the hell am I? And what the hell are you guys doing here? So there must be something here that is appealing to both of us, and it's a connection that we're making. Digital though it may be, the ideas transcend the digitalized, right? The digitized aspect of it. And in that sense, I don't think there needs to be a cutoff. I think you should comment and comment and comment as much as you want, and I will do my best to address them, whether now or later, to the best of my ability. Hey, Jesus is here! Ah, greetings, how are ya? Any newfound epiphanies? Well, if you put it that way, first of all, yes. Each and every day is a newfound epiphany. Each and every day, like it says in Eicha, right, in the scroll of Eicha, Chadashim לבקרים רבה אמונתך, right? Just like every morning is a nude, your faith in us, right? God's faith in us is renewed. And that faith that God has in us is manifested also in the first thing that, according to halacha, the Jew says when they open up their eyes, "Modeh ani lefanecha," right? I'm thankful. I'm thankful to you and before you. Rabbi emunatecha, your faith is great, right? God's faith in us is great, and our faith in ourselves should be just as great, just as renewed. Rabbi Nachman says that we should be starting each day from the beginning, and sometimes we should be starting from the beginning several times a day. So epiphanies each day, and I totally mean this, each hitbodedut that I come to is an epiphany. Every time I open my mouth in prayer, every time I sit down to read the Torah, to learn with my kids, to learn on my own, it's an epiphany of sorts, because it's something new that is opening up right now. Even if I have read it 10,000 times in the past, it's still new now. I'm making it happen now. But as for like earth-shattering epiphanies, nothing off the top of my head. I mean, only things pertaining to my woman. Oh my God. The way that my woman is revealing herself to me in this life, there's an epiphany, man. I'm still learning and studying, and I'm in awe of how much she is teaching me about who I am, who we are, right? She and I, and what we have to do in this world. So epiphanies, thank God, I'm surrounded by my woman and my kids, and that's just in my house. Other people in different walks of life, and in my work, and in the street, and on buses, are I'm there's a lot going on, and certainly the least of which, right, and my wife and kids are always teaching me new things, even like unconsciously, right? I'm learning how to be a better person through trial and error, certainly through the ones who are closest to me. Now, I know that's not exactly what you meant when you said, or when you asked any newfound epiphanies, but I treat them as such because I keep learning more and more and more through mistakes, but also through, like, let's say, grace and revelation. And in that sense, yeah, Karen, tell her, says little Andre. So, right, what that I might be off in a second or two from now. Okay, I hope that I thank you for being here, each and every one of you. And if you have to go, you gotta go. Jesus is back, says Robert Harrison. Jesus says to Robert, hey, my guy, how's it going? So, yes, indeed. Let's see. Let's keep going here. Oh, wow, so much in the chat. I lost my spot for a second. Jamal says, I feel you about not wanting to see the animals slaughtered. Their Pesach is at a different time. Oh, cool. I wasn't even, I may have been aware in the past, but their Pesach is at a different time since they follow a different calendar. Ah, perfect. I may be able to pull that off yet, but I don't know, man. I don't know. To see that lamb slaughtered, even if it's for the best reasons, the vegan in me, and certainly the one who thinks that the third temple will also be vegan because we will arrive at that Edenic mindset, I don't know if I would want to see it. At this time, we're kind of at an intermediate point. Esiel says, as a Levite, wouldn't you have to eat the sacrifices when the temple is rebuilt? No, not as a Levite. I would have to eat the sacrifice if anybody who brings the Pesach must partake of the Pesach. So, and if you, because with other sacrifices, I mean, The Pesach is the one that we are mandated to partake of, if I'm not mistaken, in a very specific way at that. But okay, so not as a Levite, as just a Hebrew man, I would have to eat certain sacrifices. As a priest, the priest might be, it would be mandated to eat it, but not the Levite and not the Israelite. So let's see. As I said, when the temple is rebuilt, I personally believe that if we are at a time and place where the temple is rebuilt, we will already be in that Edenic vegan mindset, and there will be no need for animal sacrifices, right? It will be grain, it will be wine, it will be water, like on Sukkot, but it won't be animals. So that's what I think about that. Wow, what's up, bro? Says Robert. Hi, Andre. Hi, Robert. Says Spooky. Jamal says, hi, Spooky. Good to see you here again. Jamal says, I like the approach of Rabbi Yosef Mashash and of Kook on the Midrash suggesting the third temple will only have oil and flour offerings. Right, exactly, exactly. And none of the animal sacrifices. So Rav Kook has that beautiful, beautiful, beautiful article, Ma'amarat Simchonut VeHashalom. Right, he called it a paper, right, speaking of vegetarianism and peace. And over there, he says that we are not quite there yet, which is why Rav Kook, even though he was a vegetarian, if I'm not mistaken, during the week, he still partook of animals on Shabbat, which is what I did for a while. I was partaking of animals only on Shabbos, holidays, festivals, new moons, but not during the week, right? And then I went completely vegetarian, and then I went vegan. But for a while, that's what I did. Hey, it's me, Ghost, says Spooky from a while ago. I changed my name, Robert. Everyone hit the like button, says Robert. You don't have to, but I appreciate it, Robert. Shalom Spooky, says little Andre. Jesus says, yeah, been away for a while. It is for the best. Better you hear me in vertical slices. Vertical slices? What do you mean vertical slices? Am I missing something? Ooh, pardon me again. He says shalom to Andre. By the way, everybody, Spooky is Ghost, says little Andre. Hey, Crispy Films, there he is. Check out his films on his channel. Have you been doing, so Crispy, have you been doing anything recently? I haven't checked out your channel in such a long time, probably a few months. Have you been doing anything new? Do let me know. Just joining in. Thanks, love listening, and I love having you here. LOL, says Spooky. Right, with the by the ways, as the little Andre said. I see you've already said that. Yes, indeed. SE Hall says, yes, I said that J-W in the other chat, and it was deleted as well. Okay. So I guess for some people, YouTube would delete it, and for other people, YouTube would not. I don't know. By the way, says little Andre, I can't find Crispy Films' channel in order to watch his videos. Can you please leave a comment so I can? So it's Crispy with a K, but I'm sure he answered you later on in the chat. Little Andre gives a shocked face to Nazarite. They're definitely watching us too. S.E. Hall says, I put Muhammad taught to hate, and then started the next comment, the Jews, and the second got deleted. So yeah, I guess YouTube and the algorithm is watching you on a user by user basis, each and every one of us. Spooky says, were the Essenes vegetarians? You know what? I think that they may have been. I don't recall right now off the top of my head. It would certainly make sense, but I don't recall. Little Andre says, not that I ever say anything negative about Yehudim, about Jews, but it might be for other reasons they're watching me, of course. Yeah, maybe. S.E. Hall says, well, it wasn't anything negative to Jews. That's what Little Andre said in the previous video, and since in the DMs here, but rather to Muslims. YouTube is very Sharia compliant, like Twitter. Sharia compliant, eh? Trust me, says S.E. Hall. I saw a video asking Jews if Jews are different than Gentiles, and there was tons of anti-Semitism in the comments. Trust me, he says, YouTube doesn't care about defending against anti-Semitism, but are super weird about Islamophobes. I can see how that might be the case, but I have no idea. I really don't. Jamal says, answering Robert on what it's like to be a dad, it's the greatest joy in my life to be a dad. I agree. It has the hardest moments I have ever had also. Very much agreed. When he is sick, for example, oh my God, yes. But I have never felt my soul as deeply than after having a child. Yeah, there's a phrase, I think it's from South America, Argentinian, or I don't remember, that says, with the child comes a loaf of bread. Meaning, it's supposed to kind of mean, if I'm not mistaken, don't put off having children just for the sake of your finances. It's like, don't abuse it either, but with the child comes a loaf of bread. I think it's from South America, somewhere in South America. And it's like, have faith in your ability to provide for that little doodle. Because once that little doodle arrives, you will find a way to make that happen. Because you're going to want to give that little creature everything. Protect it, defend it, raise it, keep it from harm, and make sure, even at the cost of your life and your mental health and your sleep and your everything, you'll want to make sure that that little creature is doing well. That's what you're doing. That's the meaning of your life to a great degree. I mean, certainly during the first year, oh my God, you lose, you become weaker in so many ways, but you become so much stronger in others. And the heart expands. Just like with the child comes a loaf of bread, with the child comes this expansion of the heart, of the soul, and you're able to perceive things differently. And you, as the father or mother, are literally their God. You provide for them. You are their answer for everything. They turn to you before they know how to speak. They turn to you when all they can do is cry, much like the people of Israel cry out to God, right? And God hears them in the land of Egypt. They didn't say, "Oh, Adonai, rescue us." They cried out, not even to God, but it says, "Vayanchu min ha'avodah kasha." They were sort of krächzing, right? Ugh, from the labor, and God heard them. And maybe I'm taking it a bit too far, but I don't think I am. When you've got a bitty bitty baby, and even with older kids, it becomes your life's mission to do what you can to the best of your ability, and even more than you knew you're able to do, to just keep that child going, to give it everything you can to make sure it's doing well. That's it. That's what this is about. It's I could go on for ever talking about kids and about but Jamal answered the question. I'm not gonna steal his I'm not gonna hijack his answer there. But yeah, when he is sick, definitely. Oy, 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 oy. All right, let's see. S.E. Hall says, except fear of Islam is not irrational. Anti-Semitism is. Oh, except. I see what you mean. Robert Harrison says, who here would ever like to hear Jonathan in person teach? Well, I kind of am in person, and I wouldn't know if I'm teaching, but I'm also learning. I teach certain things, but I none of this is almost none of what I say ever in the last 3.5 years has been me. And many times it's probably me regurgitating ideas and taking different things. I suppose I have my own way of conveying it and expressing it, and I do put my own spin on certain things, and I have learned a lot and integrated certain things, so I have a different way of saying them. But I think 99.9% of what I've been saying and broadcasting and for the past 3.5 years has been other people's ideas, old, ancient ideas that I constantly discover and rediscover as I go through life, and it's in different phases, and it's different phases. So if you want to teach, man, I don't know if I'm the dude to do it, because you could go to many wise and sage people and learn from them, be they rabbis or not, right? People who you trust, people who you form a bond with. And listen, I went to yeshiva for 3 years. There is a bond that is formed in a chavruta, right? In camaraderie of Torah. There is a fire that goes on, be it with you and someone else, or you and a whole group around a table, be it with a guitar and with drums, or without. There's a bond that Torah creates between people that is very much akin to. It's more than just philosophical. It's more than just. It's a bond because it's very very practical. That's how I see it. Ariel said, "Hey, hello, Ariel." Ariel Marshall says, "Shalom all. Can't watch this now, but many thanks for getting involved, and we'll watch later." Thank you. I deeply appreciate it. I hope you do watch it later if you're so inclined. S.C. Hall says, Robert, I would. I really like Jonathan's perspective. He's much more humble than an official rabbi, and he gives more than one perspective. I guess I hold more than one perspective. And as for humility, I have a long way to go. And I wouldn't know if, because that's like an absolute, man. Just because someone has the title rabbi doesn't make them humble or not. And just because someone does not have the title rabbi doesn't preclude them from being very humble. But let's keep going there. But thank you, I really appreciate it, S.E. Hall. Jesus says, "I'd like to smoke a joint with him." Oh man. So I'm for dry January. I don't abstain from alcohol because I don't drink any alcohol, but I'm taking a tolerance break from herb, and it's going very, very well. One side effect that you have after you're a daily smoker like me for a long time, one side effect of herb is that your dreams become less vivid if you continue smoking. So when you stop smoking, at least for me, and I've heard this from many others, when you stop smoking, your dreams suddenly are amplified. And oh my God, for the past 12, 13 days, when I've been on this tolerance break, I have been having some weird ass dreams. Oh my God. And they are so vivid and I remember them. Now, let me say this. I've been a daily smoker for a long time, occasionally, for years and years and years, occasionally taking month or several month long tolerance breaks. But I don't think I want to go back to smoking daily. I think I want to go back to smoking only like, a joint on Friday or on Motzei Shabbat, right after the Sabbath, the Queen leaves us. I think that's where I would want to do it. More of a before and after Shabbos weekend smoker. I don't think I'd want to go back to smoking daily. But I don't see anything wrong with smoking daily. So who knows? But right now I'm on a tolerance break. It's going well. I don't have a craving for weed. I I cultivate a very uh oh, what's the word I'm looking for? I have a very balanced view of herb. So it's not difficult for me to abstain. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth and I don't want to, oh yeah, well, watch this. No, I don't want God to test me on this, of course. But it's not that difficult for me to stop smoking cold turkey for, for be it a week or a month or several months. I'm able to do it. And I don't it seems to not have that much of an effect. Look, when I say daily smoker, I don't mean I'm walking around stoned all day smoking 10 joints a day. I mean that after the work is done, when I'm chilling with my woman, I'll take a puff, and I love it, and it's a wonderful thing to do. It's not for everyone, but it's certainly a lovely thing to do. So I'd like to smoke a joint with you as well, Jesus. That's what I'm trying to say. S.E. Hall says, Jesus, maybe back in the day when I was smoking, LOL. Oh, yeah. So some people cannot partake like gentlemen, much like alcoholics can't take just a sip. It's like they can't. They must abstain if they choose to. They must do it, and they need to cut it out and be completely dry. So I don't want to be completely dry. I think herb is a wonderful, beautiful, healing plant that was put here for us to partake of. It's just a question of giving it its right time and place. So I'm abstaining now to lower my tolerance. I'm abstaining now to give myself perspective. And it's healthier not to smoke because, as a general rule, by definition, any smoke that you inhale into your body, into your lungs, be it, it differs on the amount of damage it does and all of that for sure. It's not tobacco. But herb, when you smoke it, is still not that good. So I'm glad that I'm doing this now. Spooky says Isaiah 11:6-9 describes a vegan vegetarian world. Right, that's it. That's it right there. I can feel my throat starting to get scratchy because I've been speaking for like 83 minutes now. Oh my word. Okay. So Jesus says he says haha to the Nazarite. Let's see. Ariel says you the dubstep artist Crispy. So no, it's Crispy with a K. But there is a dubstep artist like that. Cool. Jesus says a vertical slice is like there's a full product, but you only see a slice. I see. I see what you mean. I see what you mean now. Thank you for clarifying. Crispy says yes. I've been working on a film about Mother Nature and inspiration. I'll make sure to message you when it comes out. Please do. Ariel says apologies. Crispy with a K. I do not make dubstep, although I like dub. Short films is what's on this channel. Yeah, short films. I like short films. I like films at large, but short films are very cool because they're a lot more surgical. And so more than more than never mind. Let's not get into screenwriting. I love it. Let's see. Jesus says, I reckon some channels have the ability to ban words as well. I once was unable to say Neture Karta in a certain channel. Oh my God, really? So in my channel's settings, I have it set to allow all comments and allow all chat comments, but maybe certain people don't do that and they segregate certain words so that they won't appear. But I am a great advocate of free speech in my own way, so I'm say anything you want to say, and let's hope that YouTube doesn't. Let's hope YouTube doesn't delete it. He's going for the 2 hour mark. Thank you, Robert. Yes, he's very energetic today. Am I? I mean, look, the second I press that go live button, there's something in me that opens up. And I love doing it. And it's why I do it again and again and again. It gives me the energy, right? It gives me the energy discussing these topics. It's difficult to me to understand how so many people aren't discussing these things on a regular basis all the time. It's not a question of I'm better, they're not. It's a question of I can't see myself living life and not tackling these fundamental questions of being. And I don't mean to sound like too philosophical, but it is what it is literally a philosophical discussion. And I'm loving it that there are also practical Torah applications of what it is to live in the world. What does it mean to be a Hebrew or non Hebrew? What does it mean to follow Torah? What does it mean to follow God? What is this path? What is the way? What is this Tao? So let's say the best way to learn is to teach. I think so too. I think so too. Yeah, for sure. Jesus answers, but there's those who teach and those who do, right? I can attest to the incredibly weird dreams, he says. Okay, so I'll address that afterwards. First, we'll say, yeah, oh, those who teach and those who do. So there's the very famous those who can't do teach. But I can tell you, right? Let's say my woman, right? My woman is an actress and a lot of other things, but and she among the things that she teaches, she's a director, right? But she also is an actress. She does both. I think you can do both. And more so, if you are doing and also teaching, that's the best of both worlds, you know? I can attest to the incredibly weird dream, says Jesus. I'd like to do it less too, but it gets me through after a crazy day, and times are getting crazier. Yeah, I agree. It gets you through things, and again, it's a plant. It's a plant. It just grows that way. That's all it does. Well, yeah, but you can't do it if you don't know. Right, so teaching. There's in Pirkei Avot in the Mishnah, Lo habaishan lamed, right? The one who is bashful does not learn. And the one who is too strict should not be teaching. It's all about balance. The Mishnah, the Talmud, Halacha, the Torah, it's about finding that balance. Lisa say, no, I didn't hear what happened. Right, so in the third or fourth video, I'm assuming that's what she's getting at here. Jesus, you think you'd be shouting out your lungs on the Jerusalem market if there was no internet? Good question. No. I think that if I didn't have the internet, I would want to be part of a local group here in my neighborhood. Maybe in the local shuls, right? There we have a couple of synagogues here. I don't attend them, so no. But you know what? I'll tell you this. There was one person years ago. I haven't seen him in over a decade, maybe even 2 decades. There was a person who used to be in the city center, dressed in white, speaking. I think he was quoting prophets, or maybe he was prophesying. He was a Christian man with a white beard. He may have had a white robe, but he used to stand there, and I think some people said he had Jerusalem syndrome, where if you're not aware of it, I think most of you are. Jerusalem syndrome is where somebody arrives in Israel or Yerushalayim and they think that they are the Messiah, or they believe that they need to start talking, something something like that. So would I be shouting out my lungs on the Jerusalem market? Well, right now I'm thinking no. But if God would reveal to me that that's something I ought to be doing, then I would. I'd bring my guitar. I'd make it also more interactive, like I try to do here. But yeah, I think I would. I wouldn't shy away of doing that. I wouldn't shy away of doing it. Okay, wow, it's an hour and a half. I think I'll say goodbye. Oh, you know what? I'm right at the end of the chat, so I'll read these few and then I'll say goodbye. Well, I'm back. Oh, wait, I'm back, says little Andre. Too hot to sleep in South Africa again. Jesus says, you should, if it ever happens, I'll come listen. Maybe I will. Not ruling it out. Essie Hall says, didn't even know you lived in Africa, Andre. Yes, yes, he does. Still no progress on the idea of kfitzat haderech, though, right? Kfitzat haderech, the jumping of the path or the way. The idea that through meditating on certain names, you're able to kind of go from one place to the other, a kind of physical projection, right? You're able to project yourself. For instance, people say it happened in Jonah, right? Jonah went to Nineveh. He crossed it in one day, and it should have been 3 days. Or something like Eliezer, not Eliezer, Abraham's servant. Abraham's servant, when he goes to find Yitzchak a mate, that's what happened as well, right? The land jumped, or he jumped over the land. So you get from point A to B in a second. Something like that. That's Kvitzat HaDerech. And I am at the end of this chat. It's just over 90 minutes. I'm going to say goodbye, good night. Thank you. Oh my God, thank you so very much. All of you people, people who were here and who left, people watching now, people watching later. It's so enlivening. It's so energizing. I get high on engaging with you. I get high on discussing these ideas with you. And I also get high, again, once again, I'll say it, on the practical nature of all of this, because you people help me become better. And you help me to form my thoughts, my arguments, to articulate my speech that much better. And for that, you have my thanks. And I would love to see you either tomorrow or the next day, on Friday, perhaps before Shabbat. If I have the time, I'd love to broadcast. Until then, let's have a wonderful night. Toda leya, toda lachem. Thank you. God bless. Let's have a good one. Ay, let's have a good one.